All right, ladies and gentlemen, so 3.5, we are factoring trinomials, but this time our trinomials are going to have a coefficient in front of them. So that's what that A is. So when we are factoring trinomials with a leading coefficient, once we split it up into two sets of binomial, now we're going to have a number in front of the x on one or both of the binomials. So this time we're going to have a number in front of each of our factored forms. So in order to factor a trinomial when there is a leading coefficient, you are going to use what is called the bottoms-up method, or some of your Algebra 1 teachers might have called it the over-under method. So your first step is to factor a GCF if possible. You must factor out a GCF if you want this method to work. So if there's a GCF, it has to come out in order for the method to work. Step 2, you are going to multiply the first and third term. So you're going to take that first term, whatever it is, and multiply it by the last term. That's the over part in the over-under name. So basically it's moving that first term to the back and multiplying, and that is going to give you a new trinomial, which you will be able to factor using the diamond method. So you're basically creating a new trinomial that you can use diamond method on. Now, since at the beginning of the problem you multiplied by that first term, you have to undo that. So you're going to divide each number by the first, and that says 10, it should say term, in the original problem. So you're going to divide everything by the original first term. Reduce the fraction if possible. And then how bottoms up got its name, you are going to move the bottom number of the fraction up, which is the bottoms up part or the under part of the over-under name. Okay, so example 1, we have 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. First thing we always want to check for is a GCF. Is there a GCF in this one? No. So we're going to go straight into bottoms up method because there's a number in front of the x squared. So you're going to take that 2 and bring it to the back and multiply. That's going to give us a new trinomial of x squared plus 7x. That middle term just stays the same. Nothing happens to it. Plus 2 times 3 gives me 6. Now this is something that I can factor using the diamond method. So what two numbers multiply to 6 and add up to 7? 6 and 1. So you're going to factor that to x plus 6 times x plus 1. Now, we aren't done because at the beginning of the problem we multiplied by 2. So we have to undo that by dividing by 2. And we reduce if possible. Does 6 and 2 reduce, guys? Yes. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. What about 1 and 2? Do those reduce? No. So then we're going to take the bottoms and bring them up, and that's going to be our answer. Now the 1 in front of the x you do not have to write. So this is going to be x plus 3, because that 6 reduced to a 3, times the other 2 does come up. So 2x plus 1. How can I check my answer? FOIL or box. Okay, so you can either use FOIL or box method to check your answer. It should come out to 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. So example 2, we have 6x squared minus 17x plus 5. First thing we need to check for always is what? Is there a GCF? No. So because there's a number in front of the x squared, we're going to use the bottoms up method. So take that 6 and multiply it by the 5. So that's going to give me x squared minus 17x plus what? Good, plus 30. What I want you guys to do right now is factor that using the diamond method. So guys, what two numbers multiply to 30 and add up to negative 17? Negative 15, negative 2. So this gives me x minus 15 times x minus 2. So far, so good? Okay. Now, at the very beginning of the problem, what did we do? What was the first step? Multiply by 6. So whenever you do something like that, you have to undo it later. So what would the opposite of multiplying by 6 be? Dividing. So you're going to divide each number by 6. Reduce the fractions. So what goes into 15 and 6? 3. 3 goes into 15 5 times, and 3 goes into 6 twice. And what about 2 and 6? What goes into both of those? 2. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. So then your last step is to bring the bottoms up. So that's going to give me 2x minus 5 times 3x minus 1. Okay, example 3. What's our first step always? Is there a GCF? Yes, so factor it out. So that's going to be 2 times x squared plus 2x minus 3. Do I have to use bottoms up now that I factored a GCF? No. What can I do? What method can I use? You can go straight into diamond method. So what are the two numbers that multiply to negative 3 and add up to positive 2? 3 and negative 1. So this is going to give you 2 times x plus 3 times x minus 1. Okay, so you always want to check for GCF because it could make your problem easier. You wouldn't have to use bottoms up. If you did try using bottoms up on this problem without taking a GCF, everything would reduce and you would lose that GCF of 2. So your answer would come out to x plus 3 times x minus 1. But if you FOILed that out, would you end up with what you started with? No. So you always have to check the GCF first. 1, to make the problem easier, but 2, to make sure that you don't end up accidentally dividing it out when you don't need to. Okay? Okay, so 4x squared plus 11x plus 7. First, everybody, what is my first step? GCF. Is there a GCF? No. So because there's a number in front of the x squared, I'm thinking that this has to be a bottoms-up problem. So what would I do first? Good. Take the 4 and multiply it by the back. So, everyone, what would my new trinomial be? Plus 28. Good. Okay, can you do bottoms-up, or diamond method on this? What two numbers multiply to 28 and add up to 11? 7 and 4. So this is going to be x plus 7 times x plus 4. Now, in order to undo my multiplication, I have to divide by 4 and then reduce. Does 7 over 4 reduce? No. Does 4 over 4 reduce? Yes, to 1, right? So then we're going to bring our bottoms up. So this is going to give me 4x plus 7 times x plus 1. Who got that correct? Excellent. How do you guys feel about this? Yes, if you have it written as x plus 1 times 4x plus 7, it's the exact same thing. Yeah, because multiplication order doesn't matter. So example number 5. I am giving you a rectangular prism, and I'm telling you that the volume of the prism is 8x squared plus 20x plus 12 cubic units. Then I tell you that side AE, which is this side right here, is 4 units. And I want you in part A to find the base of rectangle ABCD, so that shaded area at the bottom. So first of all, let's take a look at what information we know. They give me the volume. What is the formula for volume? Good. Length times width times height. Okay. Now, which one do we already know? The height. The height is 4. And then it doesn't matter which one you label length and width. I'm going to do BC is length, AB is width. So let's look at what the problem is asking us. The problem is asking us to find the area of the base, A, B, C, and D. How would I find the area of that base? Area is equal to what? Length times width. So now let's go back to that volume formula. If volume is equal to length times width, do you guys agree that that's the same as saying area of the base times the height? If volume is length times width times height, and area is length times width, then volume is area times height. Do you guys agree? Okay. So if I know the height, how could I isolate just that length times width part, the area? Plug in the 4 and then do what? How would I solve for A? What would I do? So this is what Abby is saying. She's saying we can do this. Volume equals A, or length times width, times the height, which is 4. So how can I solve for A?
8x squared plus 2x plus 12 equals 8 equals 4.
Okay, so we have 8x squared, which is the volume, plus 20x plus 12 equals 4A. Good. So we're just plugging everything that we know in. And then what would I do to solve for A? I'm never going to be able to solve for x. My answer is going to be in terms of x. But I need to get the A by itself. So what could I do? Divide by 4. So that's going to give me area equals, and then you divide every single term by 4. So 8x squared divided by 4 gives me 2x squared. Plus what? 5x plus 3. And that's your area for part A. Okay? So for part A, it asks us just to find the area, which is length times width. So we plugged in the volume that was given to us, we plugged in the height that was given to us, and then we divided to find the length times the width. Now part B asks us to find possible lengths for AB, which is the width, and BC, which is the length. So I have my area, which is, 2x squared plus 5x plus 3, and they want me to just break it down into a possible width and length. How could I break that area down? If we do the bottoms-up method, that's going to give us 2 quantities as our answer, right? 2 binomials, and those are going to be our possible lengths and widths. So let's look at bottoms-up. First step is to GCF, but we don't have one, so we're going to go straight into multiplying. So that's x squared plus 5x plus 6. What two numbers multiply to 6 and add up to 5? 3 and 2. So x plus 3 times x plus 2. And then we divide by 2. I'm going to move this up just a little bit, guys, because I'm running out of room. Okay, so 3 and 2 does not reduce, but 2 and 2 reduces to 1. And then you bring your bottoms up. So what would your answer be? 2x plus 3 and x plus 1. Now, we don't know which one's the length and which one's the width, but that's okay. They just wanted possible lengths and widths, so you can leave your answer in the factored form. 2x plus 3 and x plus 1. 1 would be the length, 1 would be the width.